Hi, I'm Michael McPadden from the Tango API team with another order tutorial for Tango's Mobile Procurement REST API, known as MobProc for short. In this video, I'll guide you through how to create and submit an order request to change the assignment of a service asset from one device to another. This type of transaction is commonly referred to by its transaction type code, swap devices. Please note that both of the devices in this transaction must be existing assets. The assignment cannot be transferred from an existing device asset to a new device that is currently being obtained as part of a procurement order. Okay, now let's discuss how to put together a swap devices order request. There are 4 basic steps to creating an order request. Authentication is the verification that the user making the API call is actually who they claim to be. Furthermore, users are authenticated with every API call. In this API, request headers are primarily used to refine context. Common examples include executing a transaction on behalf of another user, who is sometimes known as the quote-unquote actor, or using certain headers to tag a single call or group of related calls with a unique identifier that can be used to easily locate these calls in a server activity log file. For a detailed overview of what headers are available and how they can be used, please check out our video library for the video entitled Request Headers. The request body, written in JSON, is the heart of the order request. It contains all of the data needed by the source system to process the order. In a minute, I'll show you how to assemble that JSON. The final aspect of an order request is a Boolean that indicates whether you just want to confirm an order request or if you're submitting that request for processing. Let me explain the difference. Typically, you want to obtain a confirmation before submitting your order. As we will see, an order confirmation returns all of the IDs passed via the request body JSON, along with human-readable data that fully describes what is referenced by those IDs, such as the device name, vendor, price, etc. This is very useful for API consumers who want to present the order request back to their end user so that the user can verify it for accuracy. When an order is submitted, if successful, the API will return an HTTP status code of 200, along with various data describing the order details, including a newly assigned order number. If not successful, an error status code, along with error information, will be returned instead. Before I demonstrate placing an order via our developer portal, let me first explain what data must be included in the request body JSON. The transaction type, swap devices, indicates that you wish to swap a service assets assignment from one device to another. The external order number is an order number, tracking number, or some other reference number generated by the carrier who provides the service. It's a helpful cross-reference back to that carrier's ordering system. The service ID identifies the service asset for which we are changing the device assignment. The existing device and new device blocks contain information describing the device that is currently assigned and the one to be assigned. But we don't just simply set the device asset ID. Instead, all of the details, such as manufacturer, model, and serial number, are explicitly set. This is because the details for the existing device might be wrong and need correcting. And the new device might not be in the system yet, or might be the end user's personal device. And lastly, the properties block contains the order properties that are used by the carrier to fulfill the order. It is important to know that the set of order properties for any swap devices order can vary somewhat for different carriers. For more information on that, please refer to our video entitled How to Obtain Order Properties. Alright then, now we're ready to jump over to the developer portal and see how to create and submit an order request to swap, that is, transfer a service asset's device assignment from one device to another. And here we are in the orders endpoint. I've already selected the Post tab because we're going to be submitting an order. I would have checked the Get tab and gone into that HTTP method if we were retrieving a collection of orders. But since we're doing an order, we'll go into the Post. You'll notice that I had already entered in my authentication and header information. And I had entered it with my client ID and tenant codes. These are IDs and codes that are provided by Tango when you register your application to use the API. So you'll enter those in. And what I want you to notice here, though, is there's one query parameter. And as I mentioned earlier, we want to first confirm this order before actually submitting it. To do that, we will check the confirm query parameter, and then we will scroll down to the JSON body. This is a default version of the JSON template for a new activation. And this serves as a great example to give you guidance for what the request body would look like for a new activation. Since in our case, we are entering a swap devices order, I'll just clear this out and enter a blank template that will build up step by step. Okay, to begin, we will first enter our external order number, and I'm just going to enter in a random string. This would be the number provided by the carrier who we are placing the order with, and it's a helpful cross-reference, again, back to their ordering system. Next, we will enter our transaction type, swap devices. I'll enter our service ID. This is the ID of the service that we will be changing the assignments of the devices for. And next, I'll enter the information for the new device. This is the device that I ultimately want the service to be associated with. Specifically, I need to identify the manufacturer name, the model name, and the serial number. So we'll begin with our manufacturer ID, then the model ID. Now, the other make and model name, we would be using that in the event that we didn't have a manufacturer ID or a model ID that matched IDs in our system, but we still needed to identify for the carrier the make and model of the device that we're going to be changing our assignment to. And so in that case, you would just write the make and model combined into one field that will get passed to the carrier. Last, I will enter my serial number, starting with the type, as well as the actual serial number value. And please note that we do need to specify the serial number type with an option from our supported list. These options include IMEI, MEID, ESN, PIN, etc. Please refer to the Swap Devices order tutorial page and the API documentation website found at mobproc.info for a full list of supported options. And next we will enter our existing device information. And as you can see, the information required for existing device is nearly identical to what's required for the new device, with the one difference being that we do ask for a SIM ID. So I'll fill out my manufacturer ID here. In this case, we are switching to a different Apple device, and the model ID, as well as the serial number and value. And as I said, we'll also enter the SIM ID. And finally, we need to fill in the properties block. As described in another video on the subject, we use the orders/properties endpoint to get the properties that were supported for this particular vendor and transaction type. I'll fill in this array with just the required ones, but you could add any relevant optional ones also. I'll first enter my contact number, my preferred area code for the cellular service plan, and the last required property is the service number for the service asset that was previously identified in the service ID property. Okay, and then we'll just click the post to submit our API request. And as you can see, our request was successfully processed, so we see our confirmation response. Notice that the entire response is wrapped in a block named order confirmation. This is how we can tell that we asked the API to return an order confirmation as opposed to submitting it for final processing. Next, we might notice that the source system was able to infer a lot of valuable information from our login info, headers, and other elements within the request body. For example, you see the account holder contains the employee detail record for the logged in user, which is also the person for whom's benefit the order is being placed. In the device block, holds information describing the device that the source system has on record as the device currently associated with the service asset ID that was specified in the request body. Notice that this could vary from the existing device block if the requester identifies a different device. After that, we see the external order number, and it's the same string that we'd passed in the request. Again, this is something that would have been provided by the carrier as a cross-reference back to their ordering system. Next, we see the new device block that describes the device that we're switching the assignment to. We also see the properties. In addition to the IDs and values that we supplied in our request body, notice that the response now includes the data type and human readable label as well. This label is helpful not only for helping the API consumer better understand the nature of the property in cases where the ID might be a little cryptic, but it's also helpful in that you can then present this back to your end user, again, so that they can verify that the information in this particular property is accurate. Next, notice the requested by block. Because I am placing an order for myself, the account holder and requested by blocks contain the same information. That is, the employee detail record of my details. However, if we used either the XTNGO context employee ID header or the XTango context company employee ID header to indicate that we were ordering on behalf of a different employee, then the account holder block would contain a different employee's information, but the requested by block would still continue to contain my own, that is, the logged in user. You can use the employee's endpoint to locate another employee's ID number. The service block fully describes the new device ID that we passed in with the request body. And finally, at the bottom, you'll see our transaction type, which is swap devices. Okay, next we'll scroll back up, uncheck the confirm box, and resubmit the request for final processing. Okay, we've successfully submitted it for processing. Notice that our response is similar, but with 3 notable differences. The entire response is now wrapped in an order block instead of the order confirmation block. The order ID identifier has been inserted, and this is very important to the end user since this is what they will most often use to locate details or status about a pending or processed order. Also, if you scroll to the bottom, you will now see that the status property was added inside the orders block and set to order submitted. So there you have it. We've successfully created a swap devices order request, confirmed the order, and successfully submitted it for processing. If the source system has a workflow attached to this type of order, then it might be forwarded to a manager's approval queue or some other step. Using the order ID returned in the response, you can then make an API call for the order details and easily determine the order's current state. For greater detail about the areas I've discussed, I recommend watching a few of our other videos, including the ones for setting request headers and obtaining order properties. Each of these videos provides helpful explanations of how to complete these particular areas of your order request. I hope you found this video useful. For more information and tutorials on other topics, we recommend browsing the Mobproc API video library at mobproc.tv and our documentation website at mobproc.info. That's all for now. Thanks for watching and have a great day.